Let's get cozy. Let's get cozy. All right. Testing. Welcome back. Today, I wanted to just kind of switch things up a little bit. First of all, thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning into my channel, welcome. My name is Eliana. I talk about all things fashion, beauty, faith, femininity. So if that is content that you like, definitely stick around. Today, I really wanted to just take you a little bit behind the scenes of my life and share a little bit about the things that I'm currently working on, what I've been up to, what's kind of driven me into this space of YouTube, because I just started posting videos and I haven't really had the chance to just bring you along the journey with me. So I wanted to take you behind the scenes just to share with you how I've been able to overcome obstacles in my life and how I've been able to become confident enough to even talk to you and chat with you and be vulnerable. So I want to say about 2 years ago, I found myself in a really tough space in my life. I was in Nashville. I was working my 9 to 5. We were in the middle of the pandemic, and I just didn't feel like I was maximizing my life. I didn't feel like I was maximizing the time with my family. I just constantly found myself overthinking and second guessing everything in my life, including myself. And I had really low confidence. I could barely see the value in myself. So when I took the chance to, take a promotion and I moved back up to the DMV, I currently live in the DMV. I was raised in Pennsylvania, so this is the Northeast is home for me. I took it upon myself to just say, okay, how can I start to become more confident? How can I start to build up that spiritual muscle? How can I start to refine myself, but also reinvent myself? I was in a space where I wanted a new identity. I wanted to become the woman that I always envisioned myself being. So I reconnected with a friend who is now my best friend, and we met at a shoot for a music video. She, at the time, had a casting agency, but now she has like a full-blown business where she's, doing casting, productions, media, etc. At the time, she was focused on castings. And we reconnected at the shoot. We just chatted for probably 2 or 3 hours, just catching up. And she mentioned to me, just this entire world of modeling. And it was interesting because at the time I was more so focused on my health, my diet, nutrition. I was focused on skin, hair, a lot of those different things, but I never thought about building my confidence or, having photos and videos and media, creating that channel of opportunity for me to continue that growth journey. So I'm talking to her and she's just like, you would be really great at this. And I'm like, all right, why don't you send me some opportunities and we'll chat about it. So I kid you not, she sent me like 5 or 6 different opportunities and I shot all of them down for the most insignificant reasons. One casting was for, I think, some type of music video. No nudity, nothing crazy, but I was just like, I just don't know if that's my brand. And then the second one was like some type of hair thing. And I was like, I don't know if I want to change my hair that much. And then the third one was something, it was always something, right? So there was one shoot, it was an Afrobeat shoot. And she just said, you know what, I'm submitting you. I don't care. You're going to get casted. You're going to show up and you're going to do it. So that was about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. And ever since that shoot, I've been able to really lock in on my confidence and lock in on being the woman that I had always dreamed of. And there's very specific steps that I took to get to that point after that first shoot. So the first shoot kind of opened me up to a world of having all eyes on you, being perceived, being seen. It took me into a place where I was like, okay, I have to be comfortable with people passing judgment on me and continuing to know who I am and continuing to know my worth and continuing to know what I stand for. So after the first shoot, we kind of sat down and we just started to talk about the different types of modeling opportunities that were available, the things that I could do, building my portfolio, etc. So my first year, I really I don't know, it was almost kind of surreal. I just started to really think about building that internal GODfidence and just knowing that I was being called to this space for whatever reason, but knowing that this was not only helping me build a personal brand, but it was helping me build an internal level of confidence and self-esteem. Growing up, I was the only Black girl, the only, mixed girl in my school. There really weren't a lot of people that looked like me. So I never found myself fitting in. I never felt beautiful. I wasn't even raised to view beauty as something that was important. You know what I mean? I never even was raised to think that presentation and your femininity was something that was important. My mom was just the epitome of that. It wasn't something that was taught. She just kind of exuded it. And for years, I just didn't really know what that meant. I didn't understand how you build that. So over the years, I've done so many different projects, which have been so amazing. And, you enjoy the hair and the makeup and the lights and the glam and being in front of the photographer and getting the ability to collaborate on creating art and visuals and spreading a message. I mean, there's so many different things that I've been able to do through modeling. And I know some people kind of view it as something that's a little bit more flashy and showy than what we're called to be, but at the end of the day, it's about how you use that channel of media to further God's purpose in our lives. So I'm sharing my journey with you because I want you to know whatever you want to do in life, there's a reason that you want to do it, and you just have to have proper discernment to say, okay, the reasoning behind this is going to further me in His vision for my life. Or on the back end, this is actually something that I need to stay clear of. So having proper discernment and pursuing your dreams, that's what life is about. So one thing that I wanted to share with you was just how this has really built my confidence and vulnerability as I get on YouTube and get on different social media platforms. So I remember my first runway show, which was in Brooklyn. I walked for a sustainable brand called Love for Upcycling, and I was casted through Envy Agency. And I remember just being backstage. It was my first show, my first runway show. I'm walking around, I'm looking at all these beautiful models. There's, MUAs, there's hairstylists, there's designers, photographers, videographers, just so much chaos, truly, backstage. And something in me just kind of said, okay, I need to become her. I need to become that girl because I was selected and I was casted to be that girl. I wouldn't say modeling is necessarily always acting. I think to a certain level, to a certain degree, most models are that confident, it girl factor type of woman. They have it, they own it, and they embrace it. But I do think there are some models that fake it till they make it, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think I'm one of those models. I've challenged myself to open up. I've challenged myself to become that girl. I've challenged myself to say, okay, when I step out on that runway, it's showtime. I'm there representing a designer. I'm there showcasing these brands. If I'm in a shoot and I'm, working with a makeup artist, I'm there to show her technique and show her style. So it's important for me to walk with that air of confidence and the ability to overcome any type of insecurity that's in my head. So when you're backstage at a show, designers are picking models for their shows, for them to walk in. And sometimes you'll be pulled from a show, meaning you won't walk for a designer seconds before you're supposed to walk out on the runway. It happens. So during that show, I just remember looking around and just thinking, how did I how did I even get here? How did this even happen? How did we get to the point where we were this insecure little girl from small town Pennsylvania to now being in New York, walking for, sustainable fashion brands and encompassing everything that we had always dreamed of being? I was picked for about 5 or 6 looks for that show. And, you walk back there, the designers ask you to strip to your either bare or sometimes just minimal clothing, and they fit the clothes on you and they make sure everything fits well and whatnot. And, I have my robe back there, shout out to my runway coach. I have my robe just to, feel a little bit more covered up and just to be a little bit more modest. But, it's cutthroat and it's intense, and you have to be sharp, you have to be savvy, you have to actively listen, you have to be able to not feel insecure around people and models that have been doing this for years. You have to embrace so many different things that we talk about on this channel, and that's why I encourage you to continue to pursue the things that you fear, pursue the things that don't make sense, pursue the things that make you feel uncomfortable, because that's where you really grow. I was so uncomfortable backstage, girl. Like, I remember it was minutes before I was supposed to walk out for the first show, for the first designer. And I just kept looking around at all of the different people that were standing, sitting, waiting for the models to come out. And then, one model takes about 6 or 7 steps before you. And then the director, snaps, and then the next model goes, and then, the next model goes, and you walk. And I just, again, I'm somebody that is very aware of my surroundings. So I like to take things in. I like to be quiet and just listen and observe and, just gain the energy that's around me. So I remember just standing there with the designer, and he was to my left, and, he nudges me to go ahead and walk. And it's just like, it's like game time. You kind of black out a little bit. Right when you're about to step on the runway, you do kind of black out. You're like, all right, showtime. Like, she's our girl, And it was such a rush. It was so cool. I've never felt more confident. I will say that. I've never felt more confident than runway. And it's manifested into so many incredible ways in my life personally. I'm able to articulate better. I'm able to have more steady eye contact. I'm able to feel confident in my stance on what I believe in and how I want to be perceived. And just being able to get creative and try new things and become someone that I've always dreamed of. So after that first show, I ended up, actually getting with a real runway coach and, working with my best friend to, continue to get bookings for different projects. And now we've kind of niched down to beauty, athleisure, and, runway. And that's kind of my niche areas of where I try to do bookings. I also do some lifestyle content. And of course, I'm always doing something with YouTube. But I think the biggest thing that I'm extremely grateful for is the fact that people took a chance on me. So if there's people in your life that are encouraging you to do different things, they're telling you that there's certain things that you should try, they've already been exposed to a specific industry, whether it's something small like cooking or, fashion, or I don't know, maybe they work in the Secret Service and you have a passion for just crime solving or something. I don't know. Whatever it is that, starts to spark your interest, I genuinely think you should go for it. One thing that I've been trying to work through recently is being confident in terms of sharing my work and sharing the projects that I'm working on, and continuing to not necessarily make others believe that I do this, but make myself believe that this is really who I am. So, I work in sales in my day job, and I used to always lead by saying, I work in sales, that's what I do. And then I would just kind of leave it at that. And I wouldn't mention anything around content. I wouldn't mention modeling. I wouldn't do any of that. But I want to be known as a model. I want to be known as a child of God. I want to be known as these things. And when you take the time to change the narrative and direct the narrative to align with who you really are, that's when you start to see that incremental change. And Sarah Jakes Roberts talks about this in her new book, Power Move. She talks about how we need to strive to be our most authentic selves, because the person that people accolade the most that you present is the one that you always feel like you have to live up to. So for example, if I, was pursuing a master's and eventually got my doctoral degree, and, I'm doing these things and I don't actually want to be doing them. I don't actually like it. It's not something that actually fulfills me, but I'm getting the accolade and the kudos and the money and everything that comes with it. You feel more inclined to continue to lie to yourself in that way and not live in your authentic truth. And it's no shade to anybody pursuing any type of, doctoral degree. Do your thing. It's personally not my thing. So if I did go back to school, I'd have to sit there and say, well, what's the bigger purpose behind this? And how is this furthering my mission for what I'm called to be in this world? For me, I feel like I'm called to be in front of the camera. I'm called to use my voice to elevate the conversation around so many different topics that I'm passionate about, whether it is becoming more feminine or, just embracing a way in which to be more confident, or, helping women just live in their authentic truth, helping women overcome obstacles and adversities, being a light in people's lives. All of these things I'm able to do through modeling and being in front of the camera and making content. So that resonates with me. That's me being authentic. And then any type of accolade is just cherry on the top because I'm already fulfilled within. So I hope that makes sense, but that's just how I try to make sure that anything I'm pursuing, I'm really connected to something that's bigger than me. I know for a fact that once I really start to enter into this modeling space full time, I would love to open a foundation. I would love to fundraise and just be in a space where I can give back monetarily to a variety of different organizations that are helping young women grow and evolve and explore their own passions. I, would love to be a part of different organizations that support sustainable fashion. I talk a lot about that on my Instagram. So if you haven't checked out my Instagram content around sustainable fashion, fast fashion, and just the different concepts of how we can steward our income and our, discretional income properly, definitely check that out. But, just the way that I've been able to feel this overwhelming sense of peace. I feel like that's the best way to put it. I just feel so much peace when I'm in front of the camera, when I can chat with you, when I can, elevate the look of a designer, when I can see the colors and the textiles and just the art of it all. I don't know if you know this, but my grandmother is a really, really fantastic painter. So I come from a family of artists. We're distant relatives of Cab Calloway, if you're familiar with jazz music. I've played guitar and piano my whole life, so I've always loved the arts. I've always had this huge appreciation for the arts and just the way that it makes you feel, the way that the colors make you feel, the way that sound makes you feel. So, it was very easy for me to get into dance growing up because it kind of encompasses all of those things. So dancing, turning into this modeling career it's just been truly incredible. So that's kind of like the highlight side of my modeling journey and where things have been. I do think there is this other side that is challenging, and it requires a lot of discernment and patience and the ability to just not give up. So I want to talk a little bit about that, just to kind of give you the dichotomy of where I'm currently at in my life and how I'm able to process. So one thing that I've always noticed whenever I'm on set, whenever I'm about to pursue a project, a shoot, if I go to a casting, etc., I have to make sure that I'm 100% on point. This industry is very selective with who they want to pick, and it's vital that you have things like your comp card ready to go with very high quality photos. Your measurements are printed on there. Your contact information is there. You want to make sure that if you're, required to be in a certain clothing, that you wear that clothing. If your nails are supposed to be a certain way, your nails are that way, all the way down to your hair. So I want to talk about hair a little bit. I remember I was talking to my best friend, Vic, and we were going through, I think it was a project for some type of a music video. And I told her, just let me know how you want me to do my hair, just so I know. And we ended up having this conversation around black hair. And in the modeling industry, you have to be willing to be malleable and flexible with your hair. You might get to a runway show and they might want to straighten it. They might want to give you braids. They might want to take your braids out. I don't know. It just depends on whatever that look, requires or requests. And sometimes you won't get booked for certain projects if you're not willing to adjust to whatever their standard is. So one thing that I've, been very focused on and intentional about is seeing if there's ways that I can know ahead of time what the expectation is. Because one, I want to understand if this is even a brand or a product that I want to support. Because if they really want me to just change everything about myself, well, then just go get a model that you envision, because it's clearly not me, right? So that's number one. And then number two, I always try to make sure that if there's not going to be someone on set that knows how to properly style black hair or whatnot, then I could just do it myself, and y'all know how to go. It's just all right, fine. Just let me know up front so I don't have to be looking crazy. So that's just one thing that I do struggle with pretty much all the time. It's just making sure that you're going to be seeing my fro. Most of the time I shoot with my fro. I'm just filming this today because, I don't know, I just wanted to give my hair, a little change of pace. But I normally shoot with my fro. I normally have big hair, my big curls. That's what I want to be known for. That's how I want to shoot. That's my thing. So I, actively make sure that whether it's, an additional picture in conjunction with my comp card, or just if I'm able to see, have the designer look at my Instagram, I want them to see pictures of my afro. I want you to know how I plan to present. And if that doesn't work for you, well, then just book a model that does, because I want to stay true to me. And I know I'm representing so many young girls, so many women, so many grown women that want to see themselves on these catalogs and in these campaigns. And, if I get the opportunity to look like them and, be a part of these huge campaigns, then that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so this is another thing that's really interesting about modeling. You're kind of in this space where people are going to start telling you what they think you should be doing. And that's when discernment becomes vital. So I've been in situations where I've had photographers come up to me and say, hey, you would be so good, doing swimwear. You'd be so good in a swim campaign. Are you going to Miami Swim Week? Sometimes they're paid opportunities, and they're paid pretty well, opportunities and shoots and campaigns. But at a certain point, you kind of have to take a step back and say, what am I actually called here to do? Where do I have the most discernment? And if I'm unclear on what I should do next, what would God's plan tell me? Where does my alignment with His vision for my life come into play? You can fall into a place where you become a little bit worldly in the modeling industry, in the fashion industry, in the beauty industry. It can become very worldly and very focused on self and not exalting His name. So it's important to work with brands that align with your vision and your purpose, and shoots and, campaigns that align with your vision and your purpose. I've always stayed true to myself in that way. And it's allowed for me to do some really incredible projects. I know recently I just did a project where I was basically doing this kind of alien-inspired, colorful makeup look. We were going for something very color pop, Fenty Beauty ad campaign. And, we started to get the red light out. And I was like, oh, is this kind of fiery? Is this giving Lucifer? I'm not sure. But I took a step back. I had, discernment. I phoned a friend, and, we just went with the fact that it's just, the lighting and just the coloristic concept of it. And it's all done in good faith and, with good discernment. So there are little things like that that can kind of trip you up if you're uncomfortable with looking at your faith journey seriously, but some of us are comfortable with challenging ourselves even in the moment, even on set, even, just being able to say no to a designer if you don't want to wear their pieces because it just does not align with who you are. And it's okay to be that forward. But I'm taking the time to study. I have a coach, I'm very focused and learning the actual trade. And, we work on eyes and we work on hand movements and hand gestures, and we work on walks. And, we have constant sessions where we're just going through how to show up and show out. You never really want the photographer to be guiding you in the shoot too much. You want them to just see you and just say, okay, she's got it. She's a good model. She knows how to move. I know this most recent shoot, I was working with a new team, a new MUA and a new photographer in Brooklyn. And we were walking through just, a couple different looks, and, I was just doing like my normal poses. But then I could tell the photographer was coaching me a little bit more than I'm used to. So I think about halfway through, I just said, is it okay if I get a little weird? And he was like, what do you mean? And then I just started to do a little bit more with my hands and my face and my neck and whatnot. And, he loved it. And then I could just be my authentic self and just try something different and push the boundaries. So it does require a little bit of being comfortable in your own skin, which we talked about in our recent video, just being able to be authentically you and show up as you and overcoming those insecurities that genuinely make you you. It's okay to be weird. It's okay to be different. That's what makes you stand out, and that's what makes you so beautiful. So I just wanted to share with you a little bit around how I have been taking the concepts and the lessons that we talk about and implementing them in my own life, and just sharing with you kind of where I'm at now. We're about to walk into kind of this slow pickup of Fashion Week in September. So right now I'm going through castings for DC Fashion Week. I'm going through castings for New York Fashion Week. So I will keep you in the loop on how all of that goes. But I really, really hope that you enjoyed this video. This was so fun to make, just to kind of share with you behind the scenes of what I've been up to. And if any part of this video you thought was interesting or cool, if you want to see more content like this, please leave a comment, a like, and subscribe, and maybe share with a friend. Thank you so much for watching. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon.